Hello, listeners, and welcome back to Practical Nutrition and Health, the podcast where we separate science from sentiment and turn complex evidence into practical actions for your busy life. I'm host Lena, and it's a pleasure to be with you today. In this episode, we're going to decode a topic that causes a lot of confusion. Ultra-processed foods, are they all bad, or are there exceptions? Recent headlines suggest that not all ultra-processed foods, UPFs, are harmful. In fact, there are 8 groups of processed foods that nutrition experts consider acceptable or even green flag choices. Our goal today is to explain the evidence, highlight the key statistics, and give you a practical checklist for smarter shopping and eating. Part 1. Definitions and scientific context. First, a quick definition. Ultra-processed foods, or UPFs, are industrial formulations made through multiple processing steps. They often contain substances extracted from foods, like oils and refined sugars, stabilizers, flavor enhancers, and other additives with very few whole food ingredients. The NOVA classification is the most common system used for this concept. Numerous observational studies and meta-analyses have shown that high consumption of UPFs is associated with an increased risk of cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, certain types of cancer, and premature death. Here are a few key statistics to remember. A large meta-analysis found that the group with the highest UPF consumption had a 17% increased risk of cardiovascular disease, CVD, compared to the group with the lowest consumption. Similarly, the risk of coronary heart disease, CHD, increased by about 23% and stroke by about 9% across several studies. This was the result of a meta-analysis combining data from 3 large cohorts and other observational studies. Another meta-analysis of about 415,554 people reported that for every 10% increase in calories from UPFs, there was a corresponding 12% increase in the risk of developing type 2 diabetes. This figure suggests a dose-response relationship. The more UPFs you eat, the higher the risk. The bottom line, the observational evidence is quite consistent. Higher consumption of UPFs is linked to greater health risks. However, and this is today's key point, subgroup analyses have shown that not all UPFs are created equal. Part 2. Not all UPFs are bad. The green flag versus red flag concept. Recently, the American Heart Association and several expert analyses have emphasized a crucial distinction. We must differentiate between green flag, acceptable UPFs, and red flag, to the avoided UPFs. This classification isn't just about the level of processing. It depends on the food's overall nutritional value, including its content of salt, sugar, saturated fat, fiber, and protein. Red flag UPFs typically include sugary drinks, processed meats, sausages, bacon, hot dogs, sugary and fatty snacks like commercial candies, cakes, pre-fried fast foods, and frozen pizzas high in salt and industrial fats. These items are strongly linked to negative cardiovascular outcomes and mortality when consumed regularly. Conversely, some UPFs have good nutritional value and are considered green flags, meaning they can be convenient and beneficial choices when selected carefully. Many news outlets and AHA summaries list practical examples, which we'll dive into right now. Part 3. The list of 8 green flag UPFs, specific examples and how to choose. Here are 8 groups of UPFs that recent expert recommendations suggest are safe or even beneficial if you choose the right versions. I've included a shopping tip for each. Lightly salted or flavored nuts, seeds, and legumes. Choose versions with little to no added salt or sugar. Nuts provide healthy, unsaturated fats and protein. Low-sodium canned beans. Convenient and rich in protein and fiber. You can rinse them under water to reduce the sodium content even further. Canned fish or lean protein packed in water, low sodium. Canned tuna, salmon, or chicken are great sources of convenient protein and omega-3s from salmon. Opt for varieties packed in water instead of high-sodium oil. Unsweetened dried fruit provides fiber and minerals, but be mindful of portion sizes as it's calorie-dense. Whole grain breads and cereals with low sugar and salt. Look for the whole grain label and minimal added sugars and salt. Nutritionally valuable plant-based alternatives, such as unsweetened soy milk or tofu. Choose versions that are low in added sugar and salt and rich in protein. Frozen produce, fruits and vegetables are often flash frozen at peak freshness, preserving nutrients. They are convenient and typically have no added salt or sugar. Fortified, high-fiber breakfast cereals with minimal sweeteners. Read the label and aim for greater than 3 to 4 grams of fiber per serving and low sugar content. These options don't negate the evidence on the harms of UPFs in general. Instead, they provide a nuanced way for consumers to maintain convenience while minimizing health risks. Part 4. Why are some UPFs less harmful? Mechanisms and eating behavior. There are 2 primary layers of reasoning. Nutrient profile. Some UPF products are genuinely fortified with fiber, protein, vitamins, or minerals. Examples include fortified cereals, plant milks with added calcium and vitamin D. When compared to snacks loaded with sugar and fat, their nutritional profile is objectively better. Behavioral impact. Many UPFs are hyper-palatable. They are engineered to be extremely tasty and easy to overeat, leading to increased calorie consumption. One clinical trial found that when people were given a diet of UPFs versus a diet of minimally processed foods with the exact same on-paper calories, the group eating minimally processed foods still lost more weight. This suggests that the processing itself affects satiety and consumption. This is one reason why reducing UPFs often helps with weight management, even if the stated calorie count is the same. Conclusion. The nutritional value, the processing method, and the resulting eating behavior all determine whether a UPF should have a place in your kitchen. Part 5. A practical illustration. Smart swaps. Here are a few simple swaps you can make. Swap a soda for sparkling water with a slice of lemon or a cup of herbal tea. Swap sausages or bacon for low-sodium canned fish or rinsed canned beans. Swap a sugary breakfast cereal for a high-fiber, whole-grain cereal topped with fresh fruit. Swap potato chips for lightly salted roasted nuts or roasted frozen vegetables. These small changes maintain convenience but slash your intake of sugar, salt, and saturated fat, which, according to the evidence, means reducing your risk for cardiovascular and metabolic disease. Part 6. A 60-second label reading checklist. Check added sugars. Avoid products where added sugars, syrup, or honey are high on the list. Check salt. Choose a low-sodium option or products with less than 140 milligrams of sodium per serving if possible. Check fiber. Aim for at least 3 grams of fiber per serving in breakfast foods and grains. Check protein. Prioritize 5 to 7 grams of protein if it's a SNAP or meal replacement. And check the ingredients list. If you see a long list of chemical names and additives, consider swapping it for fresh vegetables, beans, or lean protein. Part 7. Who should be more cautious? High-risk groups. The following groups should be particularly mindful of their UPF intake. Individuals with a history of heart disease, high blood pressure, or diabetes, children and adolescents who are more likely to consume snacks and soda, and older adults on multiple medications, as some medications can affect appetite and interact with diet. These groups should prioritize reducing red flag UPFs, especially processed meats and sugary drinks, as the associated risks are very clear in large cohort studies. Part 8. Public Policy and the Future. Why this is more than a personal issue. The collective evidence suggests that UPF consumption isn't just a matter of personal choice. It's a systemic issue. Pricing, marketing, lack of time for cooking, and agricultural policies all push consumers towards UPFs. Many public health experts propose measures like front-of-pack warning labels, restrictions on advertising to children, and subsidies to make fresh foods more affordable. This is especially critical in the US and many Western countries, where the proportion of calories from UPFs is extremely high. Part 9. Summary and key takeaways. The main points to remember. Not all UPFs are the same. Many are red flags and should be avoided. But there is a group of green flag UPFs that can be convenient and nutritious if you choose wisely. The stats matter. High UPF consumption is linked to a roughly 17% increased risk of CVD, highest versus lowest consumers, and every 10% increase in calories from UPFs corresponds to a roughly 12% increased risk of type 2 diabetes. From meta-analyses, these numbers aren't absolute for every individual, but they reflect a strong trend in large populations. Your practical action plan. Read labels, choose low-sodium or low-sugar versions, prioritize frozen vegetables, canned beans, whole grain cereals, and unsweetened plant milks, and use the 60-second checklist to make your decision. Selected references for fact-checking use. American Heart Association. Messaging and recommendations on UPFs, differentiating between those with nutritional value and those that pose a risk. Real Simple, journalism summaries. Examples of the 8 green flag UPFs. Mendoza et al., The Lancet Regional Health Americas 2024. Analysis of UPFs and CVD risk, meta-analysis, cohort, finding a roughly 17% increased CVD risk in the highest versus lowest consumers group. Diabetes Care Meta-Analysis 2023/2024. Each 10% increase in UPF calories corresponds to a roughly 12% increased risk of type 2 diabetes.
Thank you for tuning into today's episode of Practical Nutrition and Health. If you found this episode helpful, please subscribe to our channel so you don't miss future episodes. Share this episode with friends and family, especially those with busy schedules who rely on convenience foods. Leave a review and a comment. Share your experience with food swaps, label reading tips, or any questions you'd like us to answer in a future episode. Every subscription and share helps us bring science-based information to a wider audience and make a positive impact on public health. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.